Hello and welcome to another edition of the How to Grow Your E-commerce Business podcast. I'm here with William Gasner from Stack Influence, and we're going to talk about how you can use influencer marketing to grow your e-commerce sales and how you can use Stack Influence to do that. So, William, would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us a bit about your company?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Trevor. So my name is William Gasner. I am the Chief Marketing Officer and co-founder of Stack Influence. Very high level, and we can dive deeper into this, but what Stack Influence does is it automates and scales up micro-influencer collaborations for e-commerce brands to help them grow sales, strengthen their brand with content, and build longer-term relationships with affiliates and ambassadors.
Okay, so where'd you get the idea for Stack Influence?
So I personally was actually a seven-figure e-commerce seller myself. Since been selling e-commerce since 2008. Sold a variety of different products from cutting boards and jewelry to teeth whitening products and toys. And along that journey, utilized a lot of different influencer marketing techniques across the gambit. And figured out what worked, what didn't. Used every single tool out there and realized that there was some pretty big holes in the market for what my partners and I wanted to accomplish in the e-commerce world, utilizing influencers. And so we actually started building out tools ourselves to help solve the problems we were experiencing. And that just quickly actually snowballed into a business in itself. And so after few failures in the e-commerce world, few massive successes that led to acquisitions, Stack Influence in 2018 became a business in itself. And we've now scaled that up from 3 founders to 30 employees and venture backed and lots of growth ahead.
Oh. So what do you, just explain to us, what do you consider to be a micro-influencer?
Absolutely. Fantastic question. So variety definitions, honestly, out there of what these different labels of influencers are, right? So what the industry states as now the categories of influencers is mega influencers who have over 1 million followers, macro, which is between 100,000 to 1 million, micro, which is 10,000 to 100,000, and nano, which is anyone under, or usually 1,000 to 10,000 is
Oh,
kind
is
of.
there such a thing as it is it and is there something as not being an influencer? So it's like nano seems to suggest that
That's a
like
good question.
loser.
Truthfully,
No
no,
fair.
right? So the bottom line, and this is a big thing that we wholeheartedly believe in, is that Stack Influence is kind of on a mission to democratize the influencer world, right? And every single person, in my opinion, is an influencer, right? At the end of the day, influencing is word of mouth marketing. And
Yeah.
it's the oldest form of marketing ever. Is if you're trying to pick up a new book and one of your friends actually is a avid reader, right? You're going to ask their opinion on what's a good book that you should pick up, right? And maybe they really love nonfiction or fiction books, and so you get their opinion on it, and that is actually real influence, right? Or you're really into running and or you're just getting into running, and one of your friends is an avid runner, right? You're going to ask them what running shoes you might want to get, and so at the end of the day, we all have influence. It just comes down to how impactful that influence is, and how you can leverage that influence on different social platforms, which we can dive into. And the social platforms have now made it possible for someone like literally with 100, 1,000 followers to get millions of views. And I can explain how that is. But yeah, the bottom line is that we're in a new world where every single person has influence, especially in the social media realm.
So really, literally, like Andy Warhol says, Andy Warhol said that everyone's famous for 15 minutes, right? Literally, everyone's an influencer. Just everyone.
Yeah, it's
All inclusive. I
exactly
like
true.
that. I like that.
100%. It used to a little bit about the social realm. It used to be the case where when you posted something on social media, and this is across every single social platform, your post was subjugated to your follower base, right? So if you had 10,000 followers, only those 10,000 people would possibly be able to see your post. Um, and things now have dramatically changed to where content is kind of king now, right? If you can produce really good content, Instagram, TikTok, a lot of other social platforms aren't just going to show your content to the people who are following you, but they're going to start showing it beyond your follower base. And so it really opened this gateway. They kind of spearheaded this democratization, in the sense that, as I explained, like you could have 100 followers, you just kind of started creating a social account. If you're very creative and you produce some really good content that the few people who are following you really engaged with, Instagram or TikTok's going to start maybe testing that with a few people who aren't following you. And if they like it, it's going to snowball and that post can literally get millions of views. So you might not, if depending on how the post is, it goes to Andy Warhol's comment, right? Like you might only have 15 minutes of fame, right? Like that post might go viral. You might not.
Yeah. If you got a viral post, that one viral post that can make you loads of money.
But at the same time, if you are very creative and you keep creating that type of content, like you can rapidly become a very larger influencer in a short time frame. So
okay. So what do you think? So you talk about micro and broadly speaking macro influencers, right? What do you think is the relative effectiveness? So obviously, I mean, if you're going to go to Kim Kardashian, she's going to charge you a lot of money. What is the is it better to have one big influencer or lots of small influencers?
Great question. So the bottom line with true influence is authenticity and trust, right? And why people are starting to take budgets away from the massive ad platforms, the Googles, the Metas, the Amazons of the world, and push them towards these influencers is that in our new consumerist age, we're bombarded by ads all the time. And so what you want is real authenticity and trust, right? That's what's going to convince you to potentially convert or buy something. Now, celebrity influencers, while they can work absolutely effectively for e-commerce brands and for promotions, right? They have massive follower bases. There's clout that surrounds them, right? But what they've started to lack is trust. And it's become a major issue because if Kim Kardashian now promotes a product, when she first started, like you were like, oh my God, has a Gucci bag, right? And like, I want a Gucci bag now. And it's like, now you realize that she's probably getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars to promote products. That's not authentic, right? Like that she might not care. Gucci's an extreme example, but like she's promoting any random product. You're going to probably be skeptical if she actually likes that product or not, or just threw it away after that promotion, right? And so that becomes a major issue when you're paying for stuff because now, yes, they have a massive follower base, but if they're promoting to all these people who don't really trust what they're promoting, it's not going to really drive you that many sales. And you're going to be putting a lot of your eggs in one basket. You're going to be spending a huge amount of money on one person. So the idea and the desire for these smaller creators is that their audience is much more trustworthy and their promotions are much more authentic because when you have maybe a few thousand followers, it's people you know, your family, your friends, or like really passionate people who are following you because you're producing content that is engaging. So when you're promoting, it is more trustworthy. And so you're going to naturally get a higher conversion rate or higher engagement rates than that even larger celebrity influencer. It might not be higher percentage base of conversion and engagement. Obviously, you don't have that much reach. So now the strategy becomes, what if you can take 100 people with 10,000 followers or 1,000 people with 10,000 followers and get them product and have them all be promoting in a short time frame? You can now get that celebrity reach, but you diversify your risk across a lot more people, increase the odds that a few of those might get massive virality. And then also across the board, you're increasing that authenticity and trust to help you convert better.
Do you find that the engagement is better with micro influencers then? People tend to buy more stuff or tend 100%. To engage more with it.
The natural, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with what even engagement means, engagement is some action that's taken on a social post, right? So whether that's a like, a comment, a share, and some actions are more impactful than others, right? Like if you're sharing this with your friends, that's obviously more engaging than just simply liking it. Micro and nano influencers across the board usually have about 5 times the engagement levels in a percentage basis than the larger influencer counterparts. And so if you compound that, right, and do it across a lot of them and still get that kind of total celebrity reach, you're increasing your engagements by 5x, and engagement's the most correlative metric to conversion, because like you're not going to convert someone if they aren't engaging or care about what the post is saying, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do see. I'm not a great user of social media, but I do, reading the news that the legacy media that that some of the things that have been promoted by some influencers are pretty dubious.
Absolutely.
Cryptocurrency,
100%. And
diet,
that's where the money comes
scheme,
into
stuff
play.
like that.
There's no question. It very rapidly becomes this money grab, right? Like with these larger influencers, it's like you'll promote kind of anything under the sun at some point if someone's going to give you tens of or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Federal Trade Commission has to step in, right? Like you now have to have very clear disclosures of people who are promoting your product, and to make sure that consumers actually understand like where you're coming from. How much are you getting paid to actually do these promotions? And that's why it's like our platform, and what we always actually recommend e-commerce brands is trying to find people who are willing to promote your product, ideally for the product itself with little monetary gain. Obviously you want to compensate people for their effort because it takes time to obviously develop these things. So incentivizing them maybe with affiliate commissions, etc. But if someone's willing to do something for a product, it's like they are a real consumer. Yes, there is a collaboration going on. There's a partnership going on. But at the end of the day, you want to get that authenticity. And the best way to do that is by finding people who are real consumers of your brand and actually care about your brand and are passionate about the kind of niche that you are promoting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I've always been quite surprised. I mean, recently TikTok, launched TikTok Shop, and that's very much based on an affiliate model, right?
Totally.
And I was very surprised that how little. I mean, forgive me if I'm behind the curve here, but how little the Facebooks, the Instagrams of this world have done to build a system like Stack Influence. Because I would have thought that would be a very, like TikTok. Because, I've had I had an e-commerce company too, and we didn't use any social media because not very little. I mean, one problem is we weren't a brand. We were sold, buying stuff wholesale and selling it retail. But it was very, the return on investment that we found on Facebook ads was very low, and just something which, enables us to, we loved the idea of TikTok Shop where we could just, it was done on an affiliate basis, and it was very low risk from that point of view. Whereas, buying ads or going to big influencers it just was never going to work for us. So, why is it that Facebook and particularly has not gone down the road of trying to monetize, trying to get in on your act effectively?
Absolutely. Facebook actually has their own influencer network, similar to TikTok. They do not have a TikTok shop. Now they've started to kind of play in that world a bit. Like you can kind of link your own e-commerce products to a certain shopping section within your Instagram account. Same thing in partnerships with Amazon and Walmart and some of the marketplaces as well. I think TikTok was very smart to kind of create a dedicated, like almost a competition platform to Amazon, you could say. But they do have their own influencer network, like a portal to actually find influencers, right? This is the same thing though on TikTok and Instagram is that, and this is the same thing with a lot of the other influencer platforms out there. What the easiest thing to do if you're starting an influencer marketing agency or software is you get a database of influencers, which is not that difficult to get. You tap into social media, Instagram provides themselves, TikTok provides themselves, and then you provide tools to reach out to them and negotiate with them, right?
Yeah.
That is effective for a few promotions, like one-off. Maybe if you're trying to do like a handful every few months, right? Or even every month.
Yeah.
Right? Not that too much negotiation. You're going back and forth. There's some minimum fees you're going to have to pay these people. But for the nano and micro influencers, if you're really trying to scale, even those dedicated platforms, they're not effective. And it's almost impossible for most brands to find 100, 1,000 people. And that's the role that we played in, is figuring out and solving for, and this is why what we faced the issues when we were e-commerce sellers was like, okay, we figured out this influencer technique works. How do we now get 500 people or 5,000 people to do this promotion in the next 2 months. And how do we not spend all of our time managing these people, getting them product, actually analyzing results, right? And even those massive companies, they have the database, they have the tools to reach out to people, but it was just not conducive to effectively scale and save us time. And those are the two main things that we set out to solve. Building.
Yeah, I've been constantly surprised that, I mean, Facebook has this, their e-commerce offering on Facebook is very poor.
Yeah.
And they've got this massive, I mean, because they're like a marketplace effectively is a way of displaying products. A market, it's customers. It's a way of displaying products. It's a way of searching for products, and it's a way of paying for products.
Yeah.
Right. And of those things, probably the most difficult is getting that, get the traffic. That's the bit you have to pay for. And I've just, Facebook is just, I've been for years surprised that Facebook didn't buy eBay and say, look, you had eBay plus Facebook traffic. It's going to be immense. It seems to me, I'm not an M&A guy, but anyway.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that is where I think the world is also moving, like social shopping, right?
Yeah.
You have some apps that are popping up, like there's an app called Flipshop. They call it now, I think they shortened it to Flip, but like they're kind of a combination of TikTok and Amazon, right? It's like instead of leaving an Amazon review, you're leaving kind of like a TikTok video on the marketplace. And it's been rapidly gaining kind of users and taking kind of sales away from the TikTok shop model and even the Amazon model. But I think there's going to be some mergers. I mean, Amazon just put in a bid for it's a last minute bid, but to acquire TikTok. So
okay.
I do think that there will
be. They're not the that's interesting. They put that because there's live stream in Asia. Live streaming is massive. Absolutely massive.
10 times better. I think it's in the US it's like 60 billion. In Asia it's 600 billion. So
yeah. I think it's massive. But tell me, okay, so what are the costs involved in and talk me through the process of getting micro influencers, and also what the costs involved are.
Absolutely. So nowadays pricing really works in 3 capacities, most commonly dealing with micro influencers. One is a flat fee per post, right? Average going rate is about $10 for every 1,000 followers you have. The second model is an affiliate commission model, right? If you can convince someone to just do something, you give them like 10 to 20% usually on average of sales that they drive. The third is convincing someone to do a promotion in exchange for just your product. So finding someone who's such a good fit for your brand, like a real consumer, that they're willing to put in the extra effort of creating a complicated piece of content, promoting that content, in exchange for just getting something for free. That is the model that Stack Influence we personally honed in on, because we just, again, what we want is the most authentic, most trustworthy types of promotions, and finding someone who wants to do something for a product, even when there's people on our platform that have 200,000 followers, like they're normally getting paid thousands of dollars to do posts. If we can get the match right, which we do with the right product, they're willing to bypass that fee and do something just for a product. And that's amazing to us, right? And then we kind of combine all 3 personally. The first incentive is the product. If they perform well, right, for us, we give them monetary bonuses, so in-cash payments. And then once that process is done, if we liked them and we believe in a kind of longer term relationship, we feed them into an affiliate funnel. And that's what our clients leverage. So I think the combination of 3 is the best tactic, because you kind of need to test the water. Not every person works well, but those are kind of the some people just do one or the other, if that makes sense.
So how do you guys take payment?
So we personally, how we charge at Stack Influence is we charge an additional flat fee per post. It's a pay-as-you-go system. There's no monthly charges to use us. It's basically, okay, brand comes to us. They want to give away products in exchange for social posts. They have to obviously give a product away, and then they pay us a fee between $20 to $40 per
influencer.
Per influencer, exactly.
Oh, so if you've got 1,000 influencers, it would be quite a lot of money.
Yes, it adds up. But those 1,000 influencers can result in very, very high ROI. So we've helped brands 13x ROI before, even when they're spending tens of thousands of dollars, right? So
okay. So what would you expect? So what would a kind of a if you wanted to start off in this, how would you test the water?
So my recommendation is at least actually Stack Influence, going with Stack Influence is a scalable model. Our minimum campaign is actually 100 influencers because that's
Yeah.
what brands want to, once they understand this tactic works, we're a scalable platform and we're specialized in automation. If you've never done influencers before, do it manually yourself, right? Like as we just discussed, Facebook, TikTok, they have their own kind of influencer databases. You can also just use social media to find some people who might be a good fit. Let's say you sell um, a protein powder supplement, right? You want to find people who might be interested in health and wellness. Search the hashtag, let's say, some fitness gym, right? That's near you, or search hashtag yoga, right? Like those types of people, if they're using those tags, probably are interested in some health and wellness products, right? Or they might be. Send them a DM message, them some posting guidelines, get a product in their hand, and test it out for yourself, right? That's my recommendation, to get your feet wet. Quickly, you're going to realize how much time that takes.
Mm.
But you're also going to understand what works and what doesn't. And so it's a great way to start off. And then once you're understanding how the tactic works well for your brand, what type of influencers are really conducive to good promotions, Stack Influence is a fantastic platform, obviously biased, but to start scaling and helping you save time in that process. And simplifying the payment process, right? Like no negotiation with people, because you're going to get pushed back for a lot of people just wanting payment as opposed to something in free product, we've built up a dedicated community of 600,000 people who are willing to do things just for products themselves.
Okay. So how do you track results?
Great question. So results pan out in a variety of manners, right? This is a cool thing about influencer marketing in general. It's not just performance marketing, right? Where it's like, all I care about is sales. Obviously, sales are one of the most important metrics for brands. But there's really 4 pillars of tracking metrics and growth metrics that brands want to see from influencer promotions. The first is social side, right? Let's just say brand awareness is absolutely very valuable, right? Is like getting the word out about your brand across and having that word out, like that is helping your website and social presence increase popularity. Now, all the AI search engines are taking into account social posts for feeds of information. So the more information you have out there, it's helping not only the awareness of people just hearing about your brand and product, but also helping search engines and AI agents actually find your brand in a higher capacity. The second value is brand building. So from an influencer campaign, you can generate a huge amount of testimonials and images and video content that now can be repurposed on online ads, which classically UGC, or what they call user generated content, helps ads increase conversion rates. It decreases ad spend or cost per clicks. And so across the board, it really can help just strengthen your online ads. You can put it on your website, provide social proof. It can increase conversions on your website, use it for social media, basically just like strengthening your brand. That's a hard thing to calculate, the value of that. But it's like, what's the value of a website, right? What's the value of a brand in general? Still a very, very valuable thing. The third aspect is sales in general, right? So you can give people kind of links, coupon codes, etc., to actually see, okay, I did this promotion, how many sales are actually generated from this? And the fourth aspect is, which a lot of actually brands on our platform use our system for, is online marketplace growth. So being Amazon, Walmart, Target. The benefits to that side of the world is that, let's just take Amazon, for example. Amazon and all the marketplaces are search engines at the end of the day. And they're a listing where people search for keywords and then listings show up. Now, industry standard rate is about 70% of people don't go past the first page. It's probably higher for certain keywords in certain product categories. But for any given search or category, there's thousands of pages, right? 3,000 new sellers enter Amazon every single day. Super, super competitive. Obviously, they control a massive amount of the market. So if you can get to the top, you can make a huge amount of money, right? But the question is, how do you rank? How do you actually get shown when people search for something? And it's a risk for Amazon to show you when you first launch a listing, right? because if your product isn't very good, they're going to lose money. Like there's 3 listings on the first page of Amazon. Like it's limited space when they have thousands of products. But it's also a risk for them not to show you, because what if your product is better than 10 times better than every single other product there, and it's like the top selling thing? They could be making a lot more money from your product than the other ones that's listed. So what they have to do is they need to collect data on your listing. And the only way for them to do that is to like incrementally test you, right? They like show you maybe on the second page of Amazon, or maybe the first for like a few minutes, see if people buy, see if they can collect any like click-through rate data, conversion rate data, etc., and then drop you back down and be like, okay, let's collect that data and see it. And that takes time for that data to be accumulated. Now, Amazon has openly shown that and created incentive programs for people to drive external traffic to listings, meaning like send an email campaign or run a Facebook campaign or an influencer campaign to your Amazon listing and drive your own kind of sales, right? Why would they do that? And the reason behind it is they're kind of putting the onus on you to give them the data they need to determine where to place you. They want to see, does your listing convert when people click through? Do they add it to their cart? Do they save your product? Like what actions are they taking? And if you can give Amazon a lot of those positive data points, you will very rapidly rise in the ranks, you could say, start showing up for higher position in categories, keywords, pages, etc. And then all of a sudden you'll get more visibility. So this is a final thing that we track when brands utilize our campaigns for, let's say, Amazon growth, is that you run 100 influencers, you run 1,000 influencers. All of a sudden you might be on page 10 and then you start showing up on page 1. And if you start converting well there, like your sales can 10x, 20x, right? Like, because you just now have visibility to all these eyeballs. We can actually see metrics of, okay, before this campaign, you were getting positioned across these keywords, across these categories. Once we activate a lot of external traffic, an influencer, again, traffic is trustworthy and authentic. So it converts at a higher rate than even ads. And those are the metrics that Amazon wants to see. And yeah, and then once we can show you that data of like, hey, now you just started showing up for all these new things, higher positioning, look at the results, or you could say the halo effects of the sales now that have been starting to flood in. And that's a whole nother ROI aspect too.
So you use it. So yes, I know. I mean, Amazon has it's only in the States at the moment, but they give you a discount. I think it's a 10% discount on the external traffic. I mean, I do find it extraordinary in a way that that people prefer to send traffic to Amazon than send it to their website where they you pay Amazon another 50. If you spend money driving traffic to Amazon and then you pay them another 15%. But I think just getting those reviews and that sales history is so important.
That's why it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think also, I mean, if they give you a discount, it means that, you pay like 10% on Amazon or 10% to you guys effectively.
Yep.
It's the same thing at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So that's interesting. So in your clients that you work with, what would be a healthy amount of sales to get from influencers?
So it varies depending on what stage of growth you are in, right? Are you launching a new product or are you having an existing product? And it depends on where your growth desires are, right? Are you focusing on a marketplace strategy? Are you focusing on a website strategy? I always look to have at least 3x. So for every influencer that promotes, we want to drive at least 3 sales, right? That's good metrics for us. But again, we recommend different scales of influencers depending on what e-commerce platform you're trying to grow on, what your main objectives are, right? For growth. There's some people that do our campaigns just to get content. They realize that if I have a whole bunch of great UGC content and I can decrease my ad conversions by X amount, or decrease my ad cost by X amount and increase my conversions, that's going to provide me a fantastic ROI off the bat, right? Not everyone thinks of influencers as just a performance marketing tactic, right? It's a plethora of value. So not to beat around the bush with this answer, but it does come down to what your growth objectives are. But again, we're always looking to drive sales at the end of the day for our clients.
So, okay. So what these days, there's a number of social media platforms. Which ones do you find work best?
So we have main specialty on Instagram. It's the oldest and largest of the social platforms. Um, and we find it actually is one of the most effective. But the natural two are TikTok and Instagram. They work very similarly. Like TikTok or Instagram Reels works in a very similar capacity to TikTok feeds, right? Posts can actually go viral. It doesn't actually necessarily matter how many followers you have as long as you're producing good content that's engaging. Um, but and then YouTube is kind of the third up and coming. YouTube Shorts also is becoming more effective, and this is for B2C, right? We're seeing more influencers happen in the B2B world on LinkedIn, on X, Reddit. So like other social platforms are emerging.
No one cares about Facebook anymore.
Facebook is less. It's less of a. It still has a massive user base, but for influencer promotions, it it's much less effective. It's
Okay.
like more about connecting. I think they've honed in on like community building and like more of like closer knit relationships. It can still work, right? And you could do cross promotions there. But my recommendations always are to really either hone in on, I would say, the big three of Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube.
Okay. So what kind of products does works best with influencers? Because I mean, obviously, you've got the difference between if you're selling a, I don't know, a £10 phone case and a £1,000 grill. Well,
Yes,
what kind of thing works best?
absolutely. Great question. So pretty much people will promote any single product online, but there are very much, depending on the type of influencer that you're going after and what the strategy behind it is, some products work and some products don't. As an example, product seeding, right? Meaning like sending a free product in exchange for a post. You're not going to get people with millions of followers to do that strategy, right? Most people have less than 20,000 followers who are willing to do that. Again, I mentioned like there's outliers. There's people with 100,000, 200,000 that will occasionally do it if you give them the right product, but most people have less than 20. Now, let's take price point to your question into account. We actually cap a product on our platform. Products, we don't promote products that are over $100 because once you get over $100, it's harder for people to give away, or a brand to give away that many products to make an effective promotion. And you need a higher ROI off the bat if you're giving away $1,000 or £1,000 product, right? So ideally your product, but you also don't want to go too cheap because you got to give someone enough value. So the sweet spot we find is between $15 to $100 for product seeding. That's in the right price point. If you're paying someone a huge amount of money, right, a larger influencer, you give them £1,000 product, a £10,000 product, right? Maybe you pay them only in that, and they have millions of followers, and it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Now going into product categories, not every product, especially if you're trying to scale it out, will work well, right? Maybe you can find one or two people who promote anything, but if you're trying to do hundreds or thousands of promotions, as an example, here's a simple example. Beauty products work fantastic. By the way, majority of the influencer world is female. It's just a natural stat, about 70%. Kind of correlates with consumerism as well. Females are more consumerist than males, or at least buy more often than their male counterparts. But yeah, about 70%. So more female focused products are easier to scale than male focused products off the bat. Now,
They're small. They're easy to ship.
yes.
They're high margin.
Yeah.
Um,
So think
yeah.
like beauty products, fashion products, accessories, fitness products, right? Like yoga mats, etc. And then home goods, as long as they're not too big home goods like couches, and food. And like those are kind of the most popular categories we find. Beauty is one of the most popular, I would say, in the market. Health and wellness also. But here's an example of a product that doesn't work. Beauty works fantastic, pretty much across the board. But if you're selling athlete's foot cream, right? You might make millions of dollars on Amazon, super popular product. Lots of people need the product. People don't necessarily want to go on social media and be like, check out my foot fungus today, right? Like, so there's sensitivity to social platforms, right? Like, and especially if I pay you $10,000 to promote your foot fungus, maybe you do it. But if I'm just giving you a free product, like you're going to be pretty skeptical on what products you promote and what products you don't. So there's layers to what products actually work in the realm of
So it's
influence.
going to be something presentable,
It does, yeah,
something that people are going to want to talk about and be happy.
exactly. We like
Okay.
to say dinner table talk, and not dinner table talk with your like closest friends and family who you have no filter with, but like dinner table talk like at a party where you're meeting people for the first time, right? What are you
Yeah.
willing to?
Something I would say something you could tell your grandmother about.
Yes, exactly. That's a
Okay.
good one.
So what is the future? What do you see the future of influencer marketing?
So the future of influencer marketing, where we're very bullish in, is a integration with not only shopping but the online ad worlds. So, and we kind of had a little brief discussion about this before the podcast, but basically, the Asian market is light years ahead of social shopping, and like live shopping than the the US and the European markets, right? Um, and I think a lot of platforms are going to start moving in that direction. So integrations of kind of social media with online marketplaces. TikTok's doing it with TikTok Shop. They're spearheading it ahead. There's new apps that are emerging like Flip Shop that are really spearheading this kind of initiative. Amazon's tried to dabble in it a bit with Amazon Inspire app, which they actually just shut down. They've tried it twice now. Um, but and they haven't got it quite right. But I think that's going to be a big evolution. And the second thing is influencers actually integrating with traditional advertising. So there's new trends that are working really, really fantastic on Instagram or Meta. It's called whitelisting. So basically putting ad dollars behind an influencer's post. So the ad is actually getting syndicated from a real person's post as opposed to coming from the brand. TikTok calls it Spark ads. So you're basically funding influencer posts to get more visibility. Those are working absolutely fantastically. And I believe there's going to be a lot more integration into that world. Amazon also just,
How would
yeah,
that work then? So someone would come to you. So someone would come to you and they'd find a number of influencers and the influencers would post and then they would sponsor those influencer posts
that's
to get
exactly
more
it.
exposure
Yep.
for them.
Yep. So think you like, as opposed to you taking that influencer's, let's say, video and running an ad on your brand's Instagram account. Let's say you're Nike, right? Nike takes influencer image, starts running an ad with that, as opposed to that, right? And let's say you're the Trevor, you're the influencer for Nike. Nike does influencer posts with you. Now they say, hey, give me permission. You give them a little code to give access to integrate Trevor's Instagram account into their ad account. And now they can start putting ad budget to show your actual Instagram accounts, Trevor's Instagram accounts, ad or Instagram post to a broader audience. And it helps both ways, right? It like not only now when people are seeing the ad or seeing the post, they might start following you. You're getting more followers. But on Nike's side, it's like a much more authentic type of advertising because it's not Nike who's promoting it, it's Trevor, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's a huge thing. It's working really. We're actually in the process of building out some tools ourselves to have auto integrations into this. So there's very seamless integration between not only curating the Instagram posts and the influencer promotions themselves, but also then integrating that into or syndicating it across ad platforms, helping brands optimize that. So we're very bullish on that kind of evolution of the influencer world.
Okay. Interesting. Look, this has been. I think I've learned a lot about influencer marketing because I'm not one of the things I know that much about. So thank you very much for that. I like to ask a fluffy question at the end. What do you think about when you're not thinking about influencer marketing? You have you read any good books recently? What have you seen which has been really cool?
um, I've been reading some fantastic books recently, but one great book is called Biology, which I just read, and it kind of still plays into the influencing world, but it's Why We Shop. And biology spelled
Oh,
BUYOL.
biology.
Yes,
Oh.
exactly. So that's been a fantastic book, but one thing that's been consuming my mind naturally, and I think it's on everyone's mind right now, is AI. Love to read, but I want to stay ahead of all of the tech trends. And there's a lot of cool evolutions of automation, especially if you're an e-commerce brand, of getting promotions out. and also just creating actually promotional content, etc., for your brand.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Some of the stuff it can do is just quite mind blowing, isn't it?
It's absolutely insane. Especially like for those of you who have checked out OpenAI or ChatGPT's new image generation tools, like it's wild what type of content you can now generate for your brand. So like
Yeah.
it's never been a better time to be an e-commerce seller, in my opinion.
I
For
do think some of this stuff. I mean, I do think that people lean on it. You go into like something like Mailchimp, it'll do you a Mailchimp will just create you an AI email campaign,
yeah,
but it'll be rubbish.
a hundred
And I
percent.
just think, and I
It's
just think, why do people, if you, and you've only got one chance to communicate with people. It's a similar thing like, there's lots of tools out there which will create an Amazon listing for you, but it'll be pretty rubbish. You just think, well, if you've got that one opportunity to talk to customers, you should just you should not depend on something pretty average to do it. I mean, I think that in a way, I think that a lot of the stuff people use AI for isn't the best use of it.
yeah.
You know?
I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. Like there's a lot of hype over AI and there's a lot of things that are still wrong and like don't purely rely on it, right? What gets me excited is just the foundational aspect to it, right? Like maybe and I like writing custom emails, but sometimes getting a foundation there and then customizing it, right? Or using AI to just integrate in some specific content while still curating, say, email, for example. And same thing with graphics, right? Like you don't want to be purely reliant on this AI system producing all of your content or your entire Amazon listing for you, right? Like, but helping you along the way,
Yes, yeah,
giving you some
definitely.
initial ideas. That's where it's thriving right now, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know. This Grammarly, which is being really heavily advertised on YouTube. It's like an online grammar checker.
yes,
Um,
yes,
I don't know. I used that. I was a bit skeptical. It's amazing. It's
it's
wormazing.
unbelievable. Yeah.
I just, it's turned me from somebody who's practically functionally illiterate into a wordsmith.
No, absolutely. That's the thing is finding the gold nuggets kind of in the mind of the AI world that actually work. Because everyone's spouting, hey, I'm automating every single thing about my business and it's replaced everything. And it's like, we're not there yet, right? Like, and if you're doing that, as you mentioned, like you're missing a lot of shots at goal. Like you're not going to be purely optimized to the most you can be across email, across Amazon, across graphics, right? But absolutely utilizing it to create some foundations, create ideas, refine things, right? It's becoming a very efficient tool for that. And I think I'm getting pretty excited about it because it's making my day to day actually just more effective.
Excellent. Bingo. William, been great talking to you. Good luck for the future. Where can people find you online?
Thanks for having me on, Trevor. For any of those who are interested in scaling and automating micro influencer collaborations, go check out our website. It's stackinfluence.com. Very easy sign up. We actually will book a call with you. And our entire team are very much Amazon and e-commerce experts. So they'll work through very detailed advice and consulting to make sure that what we're planning out is the right strategy for you. So that's the best way to find us. But feel free to also shoot me a personal email at william@stackinfluence.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find us across every single social platform at Stack Influence. So yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Nice to speak to you.
Very nice to speak with you as well.